This module presents features of home heating and cooling systems. Heating and cooling systems come in many shapes and sizes, and a few basic questions can help identify the type of heating and cooling system that you may encounter in a home, including the main function of the system, the fuel source, the location of equipment, and the type of distribution system. So some of the choices in each of these categories would include functions of heating, cooling, or both. Fuel sources could include fuel oil, natural gas, or propane, electricity, or solar energy. The equipment could be in a central location or in distributed in different rooms and providing heating and cooling direct into the room. And the distribution systems could be through ducts, steam pipes, hot water pipes, or refrigerant systems. Let's take a look at some of the more common systems we may encounter in homes and some of the more efficient systems that are often preferred to these due to their improved energy efficiency. Most homes used forced air systems to distribute heating and cooling. More efficient way to distribute heat in particular are hydronic systems. We have homes that have electric or oil furnaces, and in most cases these are being replaced with natural gas furnaces, which are generally more efficient. We have window air conditioners in many homes where central air conditioning was never installed, and these were added later. These are being generally replaced when possible with central air system or mini split systems. And most homes have a single thermostat to control the heating and the cooling. A much more efficient route to go would be to have multiple thermostats or multiple zones and to have programmable thermostats to help minimize energy use. There's a variety of terms that are used to refer to the performance of heating and cooling systems, and we'll take some time to address each one of these individually, including annual fuel utilization efficiency, seasonal energy efficiency ratio, heating season performance factor, and coefficient of performance. The annual fuel utilization efficiency is a term that allows for comparison over how different types of heating systems compare over an entire season. It's calculated by the total heat output over the entire season divided by the total heat input for the season based on the energy capacity of fuel used. The range of AFUE can be between 50 and 100%. And again, this type of rating can be used to apply to different types of heating systems and different types of fuels, and is a good way to compare across these different types of fuels and systems. So let's take a look at some common annual fuel utilization efficiencies of different types of heating systems. And as you can see, depending on the type of fuel, there are variable levels of efficiencies that can be achieved. Some of these of note are electric baseboard heating, which shows up as 100%. It's primarily because baseboard heating is fairly efficient at turning all of the electricity into heat. It just happens to be a not nearly as efficient way to use electricity as some of the alternatives. So even though it looks efficient, it's not a desirable form of heating. Versus geothermal and air source heat pumps, which generally run on electricity but are much more efficient because they don't take the electricity and convert it directly into heat. They use mechanical cycles that we'll talk about a little bit later to produce that heat. There are variable types of natural gas furnaces: conventional, medium efficiency, and condensing units. You notice condensing units achieve a significantly higher level of efficiency, almost double than older natural gas furnaces, and are highly desirable when replacing a natural gas furnace with a new one. Similarly with propane, these types of furnaces have very little heat loss in their exhaust. The exhaust is not a high temperature exhaust, and in the process of combustion, some water vapor tends to develop, and that's why they call them condensing furnaces, because we often have to catch the condensate out of the exhaust pipe from these furnaces. Another worthwhile note is that fireplaces and wood burning stoves have improved dramatically in recent years as wood is a preferred fuel in many rural regions and is often an affordable source of heating fuel. Newer types of fireplace inserts and stoves can achieve annual fuel utilization efficiencies up into the 90%. Let's take a look at SEER and energy efficiency ratio in a little bit more detail. The SEER, or seasonal energy efficiency ratio, is calculated by the total cooling output in BTUs for an entire season divided by the total energy input in watts per hour over the entire season. And this SEER number generally shows up on an energy guide label that looks like this. In this case, the SEER ratio is calculated to be 13.3, or that's what's predicted for this particular model. This is fairly low on the scale. Typical range is between 10 and 27, so this would be a lower or less efficient system than some of the others you might be able to find. Energy efficiency ratio is not used as much anymore, but it's similarly calculated for a specific instantaneous set of operations, but it refers to the total cooling output in BTUs instantaneously at 95 degrees Fahrenheit outside, and total divided by total energy input in watts per hour instantaneously at 90 degrees Fahrenheit outside. So this showed up on some older style energy guides as a ratio down below, and the range of this number was hard to compare across systems and varies depending on how it's applied. So typically the SEER number are the ones that we use now to talk about the efficiency of cooling systems. Now let's take a look at heating system performance factor and coefficient of performance. These are numbers that are typically applied to heating systems. The heating system performance factor relates to the total heating output in BTUs over an entire season divided by the total energy input in watts per hour for an entire season. This number also shows up on energy guide labels. In this case here, labeled as 8.7. This would be a mid-range evaluation for this particular unit. The general range that's found of heating system performance factors is between 7 and 10. Coefficient of performance of heating systems is a little bit more complicated number to use, but again, it refers to an instantaneous condition, total heating output in BTUs per hour at 95 degrees Fahrenheit, divided by total equivalent energy input at BTUs per hour. It's generally not included on the energy guide label, although it may appear on the manufacturer's label. And some of the older numbers are still worthwhile understanding because even though they're not listed on new ones, you may encounter them in a heating system that you find in a home.